Hey everybody, welcome back to Nikki T Live. I'm your host Nick Taylor, and today I'm hanging out with Brian Morrison the second. Do you say the second when your name? I put it in the copy here on the screen because that's what you had entered when you put your name. Is that how you typically refer yourself to?
Yeah, it's fine. It's just kind of force a habit, make sure myself and my dad obviously don't get mixed up. But yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
second with or without works fine for me.
yeah. Okay, cool. Well, you might be the second, but you're number one in many people's books, I'm sure. So I had to do the cheesy line. Sorry. Uh, Anyways, for folks who might not know you, Brian, yeah, I know a lot of folks probably do know you, but for folks that might not know you, would you mind just saying a little bit about yourself and maybe even how you got into tech if you want to?
Oh yeah, you're going way back. So yeah, I actually like to make the joke that I got into tech because I used to have a computer as a kid and it would break it. And one day I got sick of my parents finding out I'm breaking it, so I figured out how to fix them. So before I even got
Okay.
into being software development in coding in the first place, I was actually really heavily involved in like IT work, so like sysadmin,
Oh,
network
okay.
engineering, stuff like that. I've always loved code. I've always loved writing code and using it to solve business problems. So I've always found ways to do that at all of my positions until finally a spot opened up at a company I was working for to become a backend developer. So that was kind of
Oh,
how I
okay,
made the
cool.
transition from IT work over to software development. And then beginning of pandemic hit, everyone got sent home. I got a little bored of sitting around not doing a whole lot throughout that time after I got my work
Yeah,
done.
yeah.
So explored being a content creator as a way of both giving back to the community. I'm a fully self-taught developer, so I'm really passionate
Okay.
about teaching people how to code, and also building a network and growing and basically building myself an asset library that I could use whenever I am looking for a position. Which for those of you who do know, that proved very handy recently. So
Yeah. We definitely don't need to go too deep there, but
yeah.
unfortunately, some layoffs happened, and you were looking for a new role, and it's it's a great way to kind of dig into one of the topics we're going to talk about, which is networking for developers. So, some layoffs happened, and you kind of put the feeler out there on social, saying, "Oh, yeah." I don't remember exactly what you wrote, but basically you said you were open to new roles, and then all of a sudden, I guess maybe speak a bit to about your network and maybe how you built it, and because I know, like, I've been in the industry since 2002, so I have a network as well, and also from outside of tech. But I know there's a lot of people starting in tech, and they're trying to like meet people and just start building that network. So it'd be great to hear about how you went about building yours.
Yeah, so I guess my network really started being built when I started creating content because I started meeting other content creators and talking to people about how to solve problems and whatnot. And then it kind of
Okay.
grew organically from there. Just being persistent and constantly making things and putting them out there and chatting with other people. Where it really started to grow for me is getting involved with Discord communities and especially
Okay.
going to conferences. I'm a huge fan of that conference specifically. It's the one that I've been frequenting over the last year and a half.
Yeah.
And just trying to be friendly and helpful. I mean, that's kind of the big thing. That's what's kind of served me the most when it
Yeah.
came time to use and grow the network, is if people needed help with things, offer to help them, and just you know trying to consciously build relationships and build friendships. um
Yeah.
I would say is the biggest
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, no, that's great. I like what you said there because, like, I feel very similar about this. Like, I think it's if you're able to like help people, because like when I started in the industry, like I know people have mentors and stuff nowadays. When I started, I didn't have a mentor. I've never really had a mentor. I do mentor people kind of unofficially. Like we can get into that whole part too about like explicit or implicit mentorship too, maybe. But the thing about helping people is, and I talk about this to my friend Becca all the time, who I work with at Open Sauce, but you know, I don't think you should ever expect something back from people when you help them, like I think some people have that mentality like, hey, I carried this old lady's bags of groceries across the street. Maybe she should tip me or do something else. But I think not expecting stuff for helping people, and even though I'm not I'm not a religious person, but I do think karma or whatever you want to call it, like it comes back your way when people see that you're really trying to help out the community. And it's also kind of like a long game, you know what I mean? Like, because I know you do, I think you do coffee chats with folks too, but I've
Hmm.
spoken to a lot of people, early career devs or career transitioners, or like they'll join some communities I'm in, and I understand the sentiment. It's like they're looking for a job, but you can't really kind of come in guns a blazing saying, "Hey, everybody, I need a job. Can you help me?" Like, it just doesn't really work. Like I would never, personally at least, I would never refer somebody if they said, "Can you refer me?" and I don't even really know them. Like
Hmm.
because so I'm curious about your experiences with like perhaps like newer devs or people transitioning. If you've had similar experiences or
Yeah, yeah, I've actually run into something very similar, not too long ago, where somebody reached out to me and just straight up asked me if I knew of any roles that I could refer them into.
okay,
And
yeah,
I mean, the problem is like I don't know you. I don't know what your accolades are. I don't know what you're capable of. So there's
yeah,
nothing basically that I can work off of. Yeah, it's when you're doing this stuff, when you're doing networking, you got to approach it from. I don't even like the term networking, right? Because it sounds so businessy. It
same,
sounds
same,
so like it sounds so like
100,
you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of a thing. And really, it's not that. It's building a network should be building a network of friendships, right? To
yeah,
relationships that you should foster, that you should grow, that you should continue to work on. I mean, my favorite conversations these days about with people in tech is not even about tech specifically. Like,
hmm
I'm going to use an old flame war from Twitter, but like, I don't care if you prefer Vue over React, right? Like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, I like
yeah,
talking to people about like, what are your life struggles? Like, what are you going through? How's your family doing? And that's, I think, where those really deep relationships start to grow. It's not about looking for a job or
yeah,
getting a job or whatever. But then if you can build those relationships, like, what happened to me recently, as soon as I got let go, is like, okay, now I'm going to call on the people that I know for some help. And if they say,
yeah,
"Hey, I can't help you." Hey, that's cool. I get it. You know what? It's you got to do what you got to do, and if the opportunity's not there, like I understand that.
hmm
But there were so many
yeah,
people that reached out to me that would either say, "Hey, I might have a job if you're open for interviewing for it," or "I don't have a job that's available right now, but I can bring you on for some contracting work at least to try and pay the bills as you while you're looking."
yeah,
Or even just like, "Hey, I understand you're struggling with this right now. I can't help you out, but I just wanted to say, like, I wish you the best and I'll be, thinking of you or whatnot." So, um,
yeah,
all of that is super valuable, and it just it's validating that all of the work I had put into trying to build relationships with others, it circles back. And those people that reached out,
hmm
they don't know this, but I would 100%, jump for them next time. Next time
yeah,
those people, if something happens to them, it's like, hey, you know what? You helped me. Now I'm going to help you. It's not a scratch my back, scratch yours, but it definitely reinforces that like feeling. Like, yes,
hmm
I now on some level feel obligated to help somebody if I
yeah.
possibly can. So
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I hear you. And Anthony in the chat, buddy of mine says, hey, great topic. Couldn't have broken into the industry myself without content creation." We haven't touched on that yet, but also Anthony's built out a great network too. And the thing about, I hate the term networking too. I always call it like making friends or just saying hey to people. Is it like I don't go to, like, there's a JavaScript Montreal meetup, that I go to sometimes, but it's been rare lately, especially since the pandemic. But whenever I would go to it, I wouldn't just be there and start. Well, one, I wasn't looking for work, but regardless, I wouldn't just start talking about JavaScript. It was really more like, "Hey, how's it going? What's up?" And I and again, this is just based on some people that I've had coffee chats with, but it's like all they have is the tech on the brain,
mhm,
and honestly, most of the I've used I haven't really used recruiters that much in my career. Nothing against recruiters, like Taylor Dessen is awesome, but it's
mhm,
just a lot of roles that have come my way have been through people I've met over the years or previous coworkers that said, "Hey, I'm over here now, come work there." And a lot of it's really just chatting, and it's not, you know I guess to some degree, to what you were saying, like, you're saying like once you've kind of proved yourself to some degree that they're like, okay, I know Nick or Brian does great work, so like we don't even have to have that discussion. It's just really more now like, oh hey, this new place is opening up. You interested? Maybe and I'm kind of all over the map here this morning. Sorry, but the other thing, at least in my experience, is like people again, like getting back to the tech part of like networking. I think people focus too much on it. It always has to be like I have to go to a tech meetup, and those are definitely beneficial. But like uh, in my experience, for example, like I played rugby for years, and I know tons of people through rugby, and that has nothing to do with tech. And I got my
Mm.
like uh, I don't know about you, but getting my first job was super difficult. Like I it took like I was for a year. It took almost a year before I found a job. I was doing like internet technical support, admin work and stuff. And then the way I landed my job, and I'm very still feel very fortunate for this, but I was at rugby practice one night and we were finishing practice, and then we would typically go for some beers after. And one of the guys I played with, he's just like, hey, are you still looking for work? You work with you're like programming, I think. And I was like, yeah. And this was like I'm a little older, so he handed me a CD-ROM for Visual Basic 6, like a tutorial. And he said like, you know well, why don't you come work with me if you want to? Just do the tutorials or whatever on this CD-ROM over the weekend, and just come in Monday. And like, and like again, that's I'm not saying everybody's gonna hand you a CD-ROM, and probably some people don't even know what a CD-ROM is these days, maybe.
Oh,
But
don't
my
say
point
that.
is,
Don't
it's
say
yeah, yeah.
that.
But my point is, it's like, okay, yes, there was some good timing there, maybe, but that whole network of people in my rugby community had nothing to do with tech, and I was still able to land a job. So like, you never know where these opportunities could come from. So like I always tell people to just, you know, hey, what's up? Yeah, I'm looking for a new job. And then somebody might say, oh, hey, my buddy's a programmer. Let me, just out of the blue. So no guarantees, obviously, but
Yeah,
anyways.
adding on to that, if I can hop in here real quick. My first actual entry into tech is a very similar to yours. So I never actually graduated from college with a degree, but I went to a community college for a little while because that was the direction I was
Okay.
planning on going with my education. And
Yeah.
I just so happened to get paired up in a calculus class with a store manager for, I don't know if anybody remembers the name Tiger Direct from back in the day for computer parts we used to order.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
um
It's pretty
it was
solid.
he Yeah, he managed a local store, and I told him that, like, I've been trying to get a job there for years. He's like, when was the last time you applied? I was like, it's been a little while. He's like, go
Yeah.
ahead and fill in an application. By the next day, I was already, I came in, I
Yeah.
told him what I was able to do, and I got hired. And that would have never happened if it wasn't for randomly just meeting people and being nice, and
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
it works.
Yeah, totally. And Anthony in the chat says that's a great point. Being genuinely interested in people is the best way to form relationships with them. At 100%, because like it yeah, because some of the stuff I've seen sometimes is people treat it as transactional, and it, you know then it's just kind of cold, and it's like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. And anyways, but yeah, that's really cool about the Tiger Direct. And that's why I always tell people, just like, you don't have to constantly tell people, hey, I'm looking for a job. But like, you could be out with your buddies, and you're just like, grabbing a drink or a coffee or something, or dinner, and you just happen to bring it up. And I can guarantee somebody's gonna say something, either, oh, sorry, you haven't found a job yet, or I know somebody. And you never know. But and it's I s- the other thing too is um like speaking to career transitioners, like a lot of people will say like, oh, I don't have like skills that transfer and stuff. But like, you still have this huge network of people that you like, that you're with, and like, I think those skills they have too, like, definitely it doesn't transfer literally everything to like programming and stuff, but there's still stuff to talk, getting back to like genuine relationships and creating connections. Like, you can still talk about things in interviews and stuff, and like create some kind of connection, as opposed to like I don't know. I feel like sometimes interviews, if they're not done well, they can be kind of like a you versus me kind of thing. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, at
Um,
that conference this past year, Shondai Person actually, she's an engineer at Netflix. She gave a really good keynote about how she transitioned from being, I want to say it was in sales into being a software developer. So
yeah.
definitely recommends to go look that up if anybody is interested in hearing about how these different skills can apply to tech as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, I got to meet Shonda briefly at Render ATL last year, so she seems like good people. I don't know her super well at all, but that's cool you got to meet her. And I guess eh, that's another thing. Speaking of that conference, I've never been to it, but like conferences in general, I know maybe not everybody can attend them just because of cost prohibitive and stuff, but like if you do get a chance to attend a conference, it's a great place to just meet a ton of people. Like last year was the first year I really started going to conferences, so like I was like a little overexcited probably, so trying to take selfies with everybody. But yeah, there's like just a ton of people because I don't know about yourself, but like for me, prior to the pandemic, like I was kind of active on Twitter, but I never really talked to a lot of people online. Nothing against it. It was just like I just never used to do it. And then like the pandemic hit, and I was talking to more people online. And then my friend Becca started virtual coffee, and I met a ton of people through there. And then like
Mm.
and it I still find it kind of weird because like I have a really good connection with a lot of these people, but I've never met them still, which is kind of weird. Not a bad thing, but it's just weird. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know if you've had that kind of sentiment as well. Again, that's not a bad sentiment, but
Yeah, no, meeting people in person, especially when you only know them as pixels, is so surreal, right? So we
yeah,
see like our industry is very virtual these days. A lot of people work remote, and we have Zoom meetings or Teams meetings or whatever software you're using. Even like this,
yeah,
we're live streaming digitally. I think you said you're up near Montreal, and I'm in Kentucky. We're completely different countries, and we're
yeah,
able to
yeah,
do this. But like if we ever get a chance to like meet in person, it's such a surreal kind of experience. But it also I'm of the belief that it forms a deeper bond between those two people to actually meet someone in person, because then you
oh
get
yeah,
to actually see the person behind the screen, which is really awesome.
yeah, totally. I definitely feel that. Like, I remember I used to work at Dev 2, and we actually I was lucky enough that they had their first offsite, and it was literally right before the pandemic started, so it's like we went in it's kind of funny. I don't know if you ever seen that TV show Upload at all. It's on
No,
Prime, but anyways, it's set in this like huge mansion in like New England, and we ended up going to that place not because of the show, it's just coincidental, but it was just cool meeting all my coworkers and like giving some hugs. Some people, not everybody hugs, I know, but whatever. But like it was just cool hanging out for like a solid week with my entire team. And we did that because like I started working remotely full time like January 2020, and so like it happened again. I was able to go hang out when I worked at Netlify with people, and I gotta be honest, now I'm like super excited because I haven't met Becca or any of my coworkers yet, and I've known Becca for almost 4 years, and I'm meeting them in Miami in a couple weeks. So like I'm like super excited because like I know
nice.
it's gonna be good. Like even if we're just sitting there, you know what I mean? Like I know that even that's just gonna be awesome. I know that sounds kind of boring, but just like you said, just proximity. Like hey, what's up? How's it going? Or you know, eating breakfast
Yeah,
together or something. So I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, but I guess what's Anthony saying? Oh yeah, Anthony's saying that's gonna be fun. React miming. I'm actually gonna meet. Well, I used to work with Demetrius, your coworker.
okay,
So I think he's yeah, he's emceeing React miming, so gonna get to see him again. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about all that. Yeah, I guess in terms of I guess you know tips for helping people kind of create that network. We kind of touched on like I think some of the big lines. Is there anything else you think that might be helpful to people, especially more like less seasoned people, like the people kind of fresh out of the gate.
Yeah. I think it's important to keep in mind that um, most people in tech, we're that stereotypical. They would, work behind a screen in a dark room and by themselves, and they're antisocial and all that stuff. And I am actually very much like that. I think I'm kind of breaking away from that, to be entirely honest, but that's just
Okay.
because I've purposely been trying to like put myself out there, right? So the
Okay.
whole concept of the coffee chats came away from the fact that I'm traditionally not a very social person, but when I was at that conference earlier this year, I was talking with people. I was like in it, right? I felt the vibe of
Hmm.
communicating with people, talking to people. I mean, it was even to a point where like I almost ran into somebody standing up at a table as I was walking past to go do something else, and I'm like, hey, you know what? Hey, how you doing? My name's Brian. What do you do? What are you from? And just like, hey, just break out and have a conversation.
Yeah.
And it's totally a skill. It's something you need to practice, and it's something you need to be good at. I know we're eventually
Yeah.
going to talk about content creation, but the thing I tell about to new content creators is your first pieces of content are not going to be great, and you got to kind of own that and just run with it because it
Yeah.
takes practice. It's a skill that you need to work on. The first time you try and talk to people, you're probably not going to do very well, and that's okay. You got to like expect that going into it, but you might be pleasantly
Hmm.
surprised. You never know. So like my biggest advice to people who want to start growing their network is to just start talking to people. Go on Twitter,
Hmm.
and if it's somebody's birthday, say happy birthday. How you doing? If it's somebody
Yeah.
celebrating, hey, I just accomplished this big thing. Hey, great job! Congratulations! Don't know you, but I just want to wish you the best, kind of a thing. Or you can go all the way
Yeah.
and just set up. I use cal.com for my coffee chats, and it's been
Okay.
pretty successful. Just throw together a setup so people can
Yeah.
book some time on your calendar, um, and just be open. Like approach it with an open mind, right? Go in
Hmm.
and talk to people. I've talked to somebody from India actually over the past couple of weeks who was
Okay.
willing to like carve out time and at night just to have a quick conversation about career and tech and advice. And it was one of the coolest
Yeah.
conversations that I've had.
Oh,
Um,
that's awesome.
so yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully that helps.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, I definitely agree with the coffee chats. I don't have like a public one. Like, I mean, like I have it for like the virtual coffee, and I'm on some list somewhere where you can do it. But I should maybe just put it on my socials directly. But I was gonna ask you. This is unrelated to anything, but like for Cal.com, how are you finding it? Because I've been on Calendly, and Calendly's been working well, but Cal.com works pretty well for you.
Yeah, it works. It works great. I've had no issues with it whatsoever. As mentioned, I don't know if we've said this on the stream or if it's just ahead of time, but I have terrible internet. So sometimes my internet struggles with these video conferencing applications, and Cal.com, their native thing, has worked out great. I
Okay,
like all the
awesome.
scheduling and booking features. So like my setup in Cal.com is there's a
Hmm.
single event where people can pick between a 15 or 30-minute block. I have it blocked in between Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and there's like I think there's like a 2 to 3 hour block in the afternoon where people can actually book time with me. And then as
Okay.
soon as the slot is filled for one day, it doesn't let anybody fill the slot in for the rest of the day. And I only do that because if I book my entire calendar, I'm not going to actually be
Yeah.
able to do my job. So got to be conscious
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that. But it's free. I don't pay anything for it, which is kind of the coolest thing. So I'm
Okay.
just
Cool. Didn't
doing
realize
what I
that.
can by spreading my praises.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I've definitely enjoyed the calls too, because like uh similar to you, I had somebody from the Philippines. They just reached out and just said, "Hey, they're just trying to start getting into tech, and they just wanted to talk and it's there's a lot of things that you kind of forget about your not career, but like when you started,
Yeah.
they were asking me questions like, oh, so what is it like to work on a team, what is it like in this and this, and I mean, I answered truthfully, but it's like I had to take a step back and go like, oh wow, like this is like, to me this seems like trivial stuff in my head, but like this was super valuable to the person I talked to, and it and and I am back onto the theme of networking for developers. You're still meeting new people, and like, again, I never expect anything from these people, but you never know down the road, like, hey, Nick, I connected with you last year, and I see you're looking for a new role. I know somebody over here, like, so it's, yeah, I don't know. And I think just to reiterate what you said at the beginning there, I think if you're just helpful and kind to people, I can't think of anything terrible that would happen. Worst case,
Yeah.
nothing happens, but I think in general, good things happen when you do those things. So, um,
Yeah, I want to comment on something you had mentioned that just made me think of another tip for someone who's trying to like build a network and get started. Especially,
yeah.
it's terrifying to like cold DM somebody or whatnot,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Just to like
totally.
ask for
Yeah, yeah,
something. That's one of the worst. That's one of the hardest things to do, especially for new people. But I like to suggest create a little bit of a script for yourself so you know what you're going to say to the new people you're introducing yourself. One of the things that I wrote a post on my Twitter about this not too long ago. I think it was a longer form
yeah,
article, but I like to do it in like there's three things that I like to do. I like to first introduce myself, tell people who I am real quickly, where I'm like
hmm,
starting from. Like so like whether it's because I'm a developer, because I'm interested in this or whatever. And then also tell the person why you're reaching out to them. Say, hey, I
yeah,
wanted to talk to you about XYZ, and then offer a way for them to either send you resources if they don't have time, or if not, just mention that you're really interested in just having a quick chat with them. It
yeah,
goes a long way, and I only say that because I've gotten plenty of DMs in my Twitter where someone just says hi, and it's like when I see hi, like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's great that you reached out. Like I'm glad you did, but like I don't know what to do with this. And especially
yeah,
like, if I have a bunch of other things that I'm working on throughout the day, trying to take the time to extract information out of out of people can sometimes be a little bit of it's
yeah,
it sounds so snooty, but it's a challenge, right? It's like extra time out of my day. Whereas like if you just come at me and say, "Hey, my name is X. This is what
yeah,
I'm doing. Here's why I'm reaching out to you. Here's who referred me. Can you help?" I can quickly say, "Yes, I can help. Let's talk," or "Yes,
yeah,
I can help. Here are a couple links to get you started. Let me know if you need anything else." Or "No, I'm not the right person for that." I've had people reach out to me about something and I'm like, "Hey, I'd love to help you, but I am not the right person for this." But
yeah,
I
yeah,
know somebody who might be able to help you. So I'm going to refer you over to them, and then I'll create a quick intro. And it's not that I don't want to
yeah.
help. I love helping people, but the more information I can have up front, and I think I speak for a lot of people, the quicker that I can
Yeah.
actually get somebody to where they need to go, whether it's through me or
Hmm.
not.
Yeah, 100% there. And yeah, I know what you mean because and the other thing too is it helps you kind of filter out through messages like you know, maybe there's a language barrier so maybe they don't know what to say potentially, but it also, like if you want to get in touch with somebody, you should put in just even a minimal amount of effort, like, or it's kind of like, I mean, and this applies to just work in general too. Like if you have a problem, like I'm speaking in the context of programming, but if you're like, hey man, Brian, the page crashes, like, okay, what else? Like
Yeah,
then you end up with this ping pong kind of conversation, so,
yeah,
but yeah, I totally feel that. And it's and I know I typically don't have this issue because I'm a white guy in tech, but sometimes people send weird DMs to non-white guys in tech, so there's that whole thing too. So like just be like you said, brief and to the point. And you know but I think it's like you did say it is hard to cold DM people, and I can totally get that. But on the flip, if you can kind of get past that mental hurdle of like, I gotta just, I don't know this person or whatever, you know, you never know what's gonna happen unless you don't try, and this is like one of my more, it's a general advice really, but like, if you don't ask for something, you never know what's gonna happen, right? So it's like
yeah.
kind of all
How's that old saying
encompassing
go?
advice. Yeah, yeah.
And that old
I
saying, "You
forget
miss
what it.
100% of the shot. You miss 100% of the shots you
Yeah,
don't take." Right? Isn't that how that goes? Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
true though. It's
exactly.
it's it's a good quote.
Yeah, no, yeah, totally. And now I'm trying to remember, is that it's Wayne Gretzky who said that, I think, but I always get confused because like Michael Scott from The Office says it, or anyways. Yeah. Okay, cool, cool. We can kind of like what Anthony, because like Anthony asked about content creation in the beginning. He said like couldn't have broken into the industry myself without content creation. And I definitely want to dig into that, and I just want to kind of give like a little short story of what Anthony did. So um Anthony's really good people to AJC web dev on pretty much everywhere. But his story was really cool. He was like a, trained musician and a school teacher. I think you were teaching music, I think, Anthony, but I know he plays like, I can't remember if it's bass or cello, but basically he just broke into tech and he found a project he liked. He came across Redwood JS, one of the React meta frameworks, and just started writing content about it. Like they didn't ask him to. He was like writing dev 2 blog posts, and then I can't remember if he did some videos too, but basically his content creation got them on their radar. And at some point they said, "Hey, do you want to be part of the core team?" And like that was how Anthony got into tech. Oh, he did podcast interviews, he said, as well, and meetup talks. Okay. But basically he just kind of put himself out there, and all of a sudden he's got like heavy hitters from like a meta framework in the React landscape just saying, "Hey, you want to come join the team?" So um uh, but I'm curious about your content creation journey, because I know you've done quite a bit. Like, I my journey in content creation isn't much. It's really kind of just live streaming, and I do blog too. But I know like your role at Clerk now, like you're a senior developer educator. So like I know you've been doing this kind of stuff for a while now. So be curious about, yeah, just your, not to sound cheesy, but your journey into content creation, and like, maybe stuff you find helpful that other people might find helpful.
Yeah, so I have a very my everything I feel like I do is non-traditional. Like I never like start simple. I just like jump into it, right? So my
Yeah, yeah.
content creation journey started at the beginning of 2019 before everyone got like sent to work from home. I was interested in switching careers, and again, I
Hmm.
made the decision. I was like, I kind of want to try and figure out how to put myself out there for people, and help people, and learn with
Yeah.
people too at the same time, and whatnot. And I came across this concept of live coding, and I was like, "What?
Okay.
People use Twitch for more than video games? Like this is a thing?" So I was
Yeah, yeah.
like, I could do this, no problem, right? Yeah. So I
Yeah.
I basically like flipped on my camera on my laptop and used my headphones as my microphone, and I just
Okay.
like went full force into like streaming. And I have then from there created a setup and spent a bunch of money on stuff that I don't use anymore, and did that a couple of times, so it's like
Yeah.
that was really my start of it. Like I've always kind of had a website and I've known I needed to have a blog, but I never really posted anything there.
Yeah.
But like I got into live, I got really hard and heavy into live streaming, and then that's actually how I landed my first full time senior role. Is
Okay.
somebody reached out to me because they watched me on Facebook of all places, and they were like, "Yeah, we want to."
Okay.
They invited me in. I BS with them for about an hour and a half, and then afterwards got pulled into the business office, and they were like, "Yeah, we knew we wanted to hire you. We just wanted to make sure you weren't a jerk in real life." I was like, "Oh,
Okay.
that's
Okay.
kind of cool, actually." Um, so yeah, from there, I started creating videos and started getting heavy into blog posts, and I do Twitter Spaces and I do podcasts. I do all sorts
Okay.
of things basically because I like doing it, right?
Yeah.
Um, for me, all of these things are just mediums for the same end goal, right? So
Hmm.
like a lot of people I think assume that you need to make YouTube videos. Like if you want to be a content creator, you need to do YouTube. But there are so many different avenues that resonate with different people,
Yeah.
that that you could just you pick and choose and you discover the things that you like to do. Like I hop around between all of it. I really like creating videos, but honestly,
Hmm.
I really enjoy writing too, which I guess a lot of people don't
Okay.
really like to sit down and write, but it's the closest thing to writing code, really. I mean, if you think
Yeah.
about it, I could if I'm recording a video, I gotta like prepare. I gotta do the lights. I gotta do audio check. I gotta do this. So there's like work involved. Whereas like if I'm writing, I'm like no,
Yeah.
I could put headphones on and get lost in the whatever I'm putting on my screen, which is kind of neat. It's a different
Yeah.
avenue. Um, yeah. So and then back to the whole idea of networking and helping people out. My first kind of transition into a full-time content creator, which I'm so blessed to have a role that I basically get paid to create content by a company,
Yeah.
is I started helping James Quick, who I think are mutual friends of both of ours. He's a really good friend of mine.
Yeah.
I reached out
Hmm.
to him one time on Twitter in like 2017. We were talking about Netlify functions versus Lambda functions, and we were just kind of like chatting about it. And
Okay.
we started building a friendship from that point in time. And then fast
Okay.
forward to
Cool.
2022 is when I got referred to the place that he was at to basically write for them, to
Yeah.
manage docs and to potentially do videos and live streaming and all this stuff. So
That's awesome.
yeah, that was I hopped around a little bit there, but that was kind of my journey into content creation and at least doing it professionally. So
Yeah, no, it's good. I love hearing this, and it's like, I I guess like there's a common theme of just not necessarily doing things like in traditional routes, which because like you said, like I don't, maybe there is some perfect recipe, but I think I think one thing that blocks a lot of people that I've seen, and like I remember being like this earlier on in my career too, is like I had a blog for a little while. I wrote one or two blog posts, and then I was like, I don't have anything to write about. I don't know what. I kind of I kind of associate it to like I don't know if you had a diary as a kid at all, or if you have a diary, but like when I was a kid, like people had diaries, and I was like I tried to do one, and I was like this just doesn't work for me. Like I was writing boring stuff, like I don't know, maybe people put like their darkest secrets in it. I was like, yeah, I had steak tonight, like nothing, like it was just I was just kind of going through the motions, and
yeah,
so like I was like, no, forget that. But once I got basically I joined Dev 2 in 2017, like not as an employee, that was later on, but like I was just like I'm gonna write a blog post, and I just kind of started doing things again. And I think part of it is just do it. Like maybe a bunch of your posts are not going to be great, but you're doing it, and then eventually or hopefully it gets better over time, and
yeah,
but I think people get in that analysis paralysis of, like I don't know what to write about or whatever, like, and just start. And I don't know. I think that's where I've seen a lot of people just kind of maybe, I mean, and again, you don't have to do content creation, but if you I think it's beneficial personally, but I've just seen that block so many people. I don't know if you've seen that as well, or something similar.
yeah. I keep name dropping on this chat, but Aaron
That's
Francis
okay.
is
That's
another
okay.
person is another person who I'm pretty good friends with. I used to work with him at the previous job, right? And I
Yeah.
got the pleasure of watching him present at Laracon last year because I was working a booth there, but we were in the main hall, so I was able to watch him give a
Okay.
presentation. And he said something that stuck with me, and he said that sharing online, which it could just be tweeting, it could be content creation, it could be publishing open source code. It doesn't matter. You pick your
Yeah.
poison, so to speak. It it increases the surface area of your luck, right? Because
Hmm.
like a lot of the stuff that happens to us, like I landed at Clerk in a day after getting laid off.
Yeah.
That was work that was put in, but it was also luck, like that they just so happened to be interested in talking to
Hmm.
me when that happened, right? Um,
Yeah.
but putting yourself out there online and sharing your knowledge, sharing what you know, sharing what you're doing, it
Hmm.
increases the eyeballs that are looking at you, and it gets you that attention. So this way, when something
Yeah.
does come up, it's like, oh yeah, Brian's looking for something or Nikki's looking for something, right? Let's talk to
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
and see if they're interested. I just referred somebody to a potential opening at Clerk just because we've been chatting lately on some spaces and podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, had I not, and
Awesome.
I've never really interacted with this person before, short of doing a couple of things here and there. But had we not
Hmm.
just been there, had we not both taken the initiative to do that thing, I would have never thought of him for the role. But as soon as I saw it pop up,
Yeah.
I was like, hey, you should look at this. Come take a look because it's kind of seems like it fits exactly what you're looking for. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
100.
so I got a couple other thoughts here about the that analysis paralysis. I like the way you
Yeah.
put it. My first tip is just do it. Right. Thank you,
Hmm.
Nike. Don't
Yeah. Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
think too much
Exactly.
about it. Don't think about the SEO and the perfect intro and the perfect hook like there's all
Yeah.
sorts
Yeah.
of tips and tricks that you will learn and you will gain over time of experience doing it. But also, you don't ever compare yourself to somebody who's been doing this for a long time. Don't even compare yourself to anybody who's doing it at all. Period. In my opinion, because
Yeah.
everybody's way method of learning and approach to learning things or experiences they're all differ, right? So my one of my first YouTube series that I did was on creating Discord bots in JavaScript. um I There are other people who have done the same thing, but I had so many people reach out to me saying that they love my content because the way that I taught it resonated with them
Hmm.
specifically, right? And if I would just look on there and say like, oh, other people have the same tutorial out there, like, no, it's not. The way that you present it and approach
Yeah.
it is going to be completely unique. And another pro tip: keep a work journal. I have a
Okay.
Notion page pinned to the side of my screen almost at all
Okay.
times. And as I'm doing things throughout the day, I'm just constantly bullet pointing or taking snapshots or putting code snippets or
Okay.
stuff in there. And then once a week, I go back there and I look through it and be like, okay, what can I pull out of here that I want to write about or do a video about or do this about? Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't give themselves enough credit for the stuff that they do throughout the day. They think it's just like, oh,
Mhm.
this is just my job. Everybody does this, right? It's like, no,
Yeah.
you have unique experiences that you can share that you're just not giving yourself credit for. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think
100%.
that kind of rounds out everything that came to mind as you were
Yeah, yeah,
talking
no, that's
last.
great. Yeah, yeah, and I just wanted to say thanks Daniel Rowe for the raid on Twitch there. Appreciate it. Good to see you. Uh, I haven't met Daniel from the Nux team. I haven't had a chance to meet him in person yet, but we did a live stream together last year. Uh, really great people, kind person, and super helpful. So it's great to see you there, Daniel. I think it's a little later in the day for you. You're in the UK, so probably closer to dinner time. But thanks again for the raid. Um, yeah, I totally feel what you're saying about the experiences too, like, and like, it's like the classic thing, like, why are you writing a blog post about React? Somebody 2,000 other people have already written it, like, and I 100% love what you said about like your perspective might be different, and
Mhm.
you know, the way you explain React to somebody versus me, it might be that the way you explained it clicks for them, but like they read my post too and they're like, I don't get it. So like I think there's always I don't know. Uh, Typically what I try to do at least when I write is like I try to it's selfish, but I try to write for myself first because like
Yeah,
I kind of want to solidify what I've learned or like a problem I just solved that I want to write about. It helps me solidify it, and it's kind of hard to get the lizard brain to not say like I want like the 10,000 likes or whatever, but I think as long as I put stuff out there like you were saying you're creating that surface like Aaron says there's that, and honestly if it helps at least one person that's awesome too, but that's like kind of icing on the cake. But but there is the lizard brain that will kick in for me at least too, but
yeah,
it's not the main motivator. It's just your brain being your brain, I guess. Um but what was I gonna say about um what you're saying about Aaron, and just like I it totally makes sense, like just more stuff you put out there, and you know I guess the thing with nowadays, because like obviously the job market's been a little rough. I'll
yeah,
just leave it at that. um you know I think it's harder nowadays to land a job, potentially, but like to stand out, like I'm always a fan of like I'm like if I'm applying for a role, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to stand out within legal means, obviously. But and I think it's maybe unfortunate, but nowadays as like a dev, at least I can't speak about other industries. You kind of have to be like I'm a dev, but I'm also my manager slash marketing person slash this slash that,
yeah,
and like I don't know, I tell people that like I almost feel like you kind of have to do content creation in some degree, whether that's blogging or not now, because like somebody else is doing it that might want the same role as you. And I'm not saying that person will get that role because of that, but like there's people doing like the minimum bar has kind of been raised a lot, I think. And I think that's what's also stressful, like in the job market these days, potentially. I don't know if you kind of feel the same, or maybe not at all. I don't know.
yeah. No, this applies to a lot of things too. Actually, there was a talk I gave at a conference last year that was all about how to build kind of your own version of Netlify on AWS, and I stepped through like my process of
Okay.
doing that, right? And like kind of one of my big like take home points from that is, you know, you can just deploy something in Netlify. You can sync up
Hmm.
your GitHub account to Netlify and let it sync. Or you can go through all these 20 steps that I just explained about building Lambda functions and building the front end and deploying
Yeah.
it to S3 and building all the IIC tooling back into like make it do it. It's like, why the hell would you want to do this? It's like because you should it increases the opportunities you have, and I think content creation is just
Hmm.
like that as well too. And the example I
Yeah.
gave was like if you're part of of 10,000 people that get laid off from a company, the
Yeah.
this sounds very cold, but the harsh reality is you are now competing with 9,999 other people for a job.
Yeah. It's
And if you're
bad.
like me, where you got three kids and three animals and a wife that you're the sole earner for the house, like you got to put food on the table, right? Like
Mhm.
ultimately at the end of the day, that's what you got to do. Um, so yeah, you absolutely should create content and grow your knowledge and make sure you share it so this way you can be in a better position when something does happen, when something inevitably happens, right? Because it's
Yeah.
going to. That's kind of like the sad reality of life. Like what if something's going to go south, it will at some point.
Yeah.
So be prepared for that. Taylor Desson,
Yeah.
who you had mentioned earlier in our call, one of the things he says that I really like is you build your network for you build your network for when you need it, and you don't build.
Mhm.
How did he? I can't. I'm totally butchering this, but basically his take home was you got to do it ahead of time. You can't wait until
Yeah.
the crap hits the fan in order to start networking, because by that point it's too late. Now you're already in pain.
Yeah.
You're going to be going through it. But, if you can work on
100.
building those relationships and friendships and helping people out and doing all this stuff, like I don't get anything from doing coffee chats beyond chatting people and getting to meet super cool people and build those friendships. Not
Yeah.
transactionally, of course. I get the
Yeah, yeah.
satisfaction of getting to help people. That's what I get. But, at some point
Yeah.
the table's going to be turned and I'm going to need the help. And I'm going to be in a much
Mhm.
better position like I was had I not been
Yeah.
doing this for 5 years at this point.
Yeah, and I just gotta say again, like hats off to you, like landing a new role a day later, like that's like top tier, like that's super impressive, and I will say it's a great place. I know a few of the people there, and they're good people, so that's awesome that you landed there. Yeah, no, and you're right about the network too late. And this is kind of what like I was kind of saying at the kind of closer to the beginning where it's like people join communities and like right away they're just saying like I'm looking for a job, help me. And it's not really like I, again, I'm not being cold, but it's just like why should I help you? I don't even know you yet, or like you didn't even tell me your name yet, like literally, like
Yeah.
so it's and again, maybe I think in some cases maybe there is language barriers sometimes because like some of the communities I'm in, it's people from all over the world, but I think in general, yeah, it goes back to that long game, like building those relationships. Like uh, I've mentioned Becca a ton of times, I know, but I met her at the beginning of the pandemic, and I was like one of the first people to join virtual coffee, and it's grown over time, but like I made like a good core of people in there that like I would want to hang out with now. Not that I don't want to hang out with the other people too. I just mean like I have a bit of a deeper connection with some of them, including Becca, and when it came to I was potentially thinking of moving to another role, she went at bat for me and just said like I didn't say I want to switch. I said I was like, under the radar, maybe put out some feelers, but she's just like she went to my now CEO and said like, go speak to Nick, and then like, had the conversation. And also it kind of ties in to because I guess content creation could be many things. Like I consider open source kind of content creation,
Yeah,
uh, eh,
absolutely.
and so like and this is a it's kind of like rounding up the networking and content creation maybe, but like um I'm working at open source now, and I started contributing to that project, and I had spoken to like I did a live stream with like B Dougie, who's my CEO now, and I was just really interested in the project. I wasn't looking for work at the time. I was still at Netlify. I was just curious about the project, and then I started contributing a bit, and I helped out with a few things. And again, not expecting to be hired or anything. And again, I'll just make it very clear because people ask me, can I get a job if I do open source? I'm not going to say you're 100% guaranteed, but I don't know. I've been pretty lucky so far, but it was a combination of like Becca's like Nick's solid, go speak to him, and I'd also been interested in that project, showing interest in it, even though I hadn't been looking at work, and so that and basically a perfect storm. Basically, I, people out. It kind of it gets back to what you said, what Aaron said, like you're increasing your area of surface area of luck, because like
Yeah.
uh so I don't know. I'm kind of all over the map there on that, but I think it kind of all ties into some of the themes we're talking about there. So,
Yeah, well, a lot of these topics all kind of like interconnect in really different, interesting ways. Like, content
Yeah,
creation in and of itself will help boost your visibility, but so will networking, and so will building friendships, and so
yeah.
will sharing what's going on in life online, right? So it's all these like these little things that add up that can eventually create something so substantial that there's some
Mhm.
tangible benefit at the end of all of it, you know.
Yeah, totally, totally. Awesome. We got a few more people in the chat here. Anthony's saying B Dougie has talked about doing this exact same thing. I think he's referring to what we were talking about before, maybe. And Chrissy just joined, and then Idrinth says, "Oh, I'm late. I missed my alarm for this. Don't worry, Idrinth. We're still chatting." Um, Oh, okay, okay. Okay. Anthony gave some context. He meant like the building the Netlify clone that you talked about. Um, and honestly, that's a pretty cool talk and project you did because like having worked at Netlify, I know there's a lot of moving parts to make make the sausage. So
Yeah,
that's super cool that you kind of went through that whole thing and you know I think it's also good because like even if you end up using something like Netlify, Vercel, or whatever to deploy your stuff, you have a deeper understanding of like how things are. As you're deploying your thing, you're probably like, okay, I guess it's creating the lambdas now, blah blah blah.
yeah,
And it's I don't know, and it's yeah, also a great way. Like I mean, it ties into like the kind of work you do, but like you're able to really convey like what is happening here. Like and I think that's a I mean, not just for like the kind of role you do, like as an educator, but I think it's always great if you can explain something to people because like it's kind of like there's that question sometimes people will ask like, how does the internet work? And it's like that's like a very broad and big question, but
yeah.
if you can get people talking about that, even if you don't have all the pieces, like again, it ties into just like how do you communicate, and this kind of ties into networking as well, I guess too. I don't know, but oh, thanks for the subscription, Idrith. Um, yeah, sorry. There's a lot of people in the chat today. I guess they're
Yeah,
pretty
it's
excited
all
that
good.
you're here.
Yeah,
Um,
and then one more comment about the Netlify thing. I just wanted to throw this
yeah,
out there too. Even y- one of the other takeaways was like, even if you don't want to do any of this stuff, like that's cool. I'm not
yeah,
trying to convince you to create your own Netlify, but like once you understand how the sausage is made, you can appreciate it more. You know,
yeah,
like
yeah,
now I know I could just wire a GitHub repository over to Netlify or Vercel or any of these other providers that are auto deploying code, and it's like
yeah,
I could do it myself. Yeah, of course I can. But like, why would I want to when these awesome companies are
yeah,
coming along
exactly.
and
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
like doing all the heavy lifting for me? You know?
Yeah, totally. And Chrissy in the chat says, I can attest to the power of content creation. I managed to write a post on pieces by developers blog. I think those are the folks where you were on the Twitter space recently.
Yeah.
She wrote a blog post there because of one of their DevRels saw her hash node blog post and free code camp articles. So again, this is like the I, I don't know. I really love that quote from Aaron Francis, the increasing your surface area of luck. So that's exactly what happened to Chrissy there in that case, I guess. They're just like,
Yeah.
oh, Chrissy's done a bunch of blogging. Hey, you want to come blog for us, and maybe we'll pay you or whatever. So it's
Well, then
super
you,
cool.
yeah, that's what I was just going to mention. That's the other thing to keep in mind about content creation is it can be a pretty lucrative business. I mean,
Hmm.
Aaron Francis, who we've been talking about, he's actually going out on his own to do freelance content consulting. You know, he's
Yeah,
he's trying to start his own business, just working with companies who need content to be created. And
yeah,
it's I've done guest posts where on blogs where people have paid me to create content. I've done videos where people will pay me to create videos for them, and it can
hmm,
also turn into a fairly lucrative business, especially if you do get laid off, because that's part of the discussion that we started off. If you get laid off, you
yeah,
can potentially have a secondary stream of income while you're trying to land on your feet, which can help put some
yeah,
food on the table. So that's definitely another angle
totally.
to think about when it comes to content creation.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I'm curious. Like, I, I'm not. I mean, I guess I'm technically a content creator, but like, I haven't really tried to use it as another source of income yet. Like, I mean, I get some cash from Twitch occasionally, because I mean, it's not like I'm Primogen or somebody,
Yeah.
um, but you know, like I do think about it, but I'm curious because like you've been doing content creation for a while now, but you were also working full time, and like I, like I guess where's the balance there, or like is there no balance, or is it just YOLO, or
Um, it depends. Obviously, it depends on the workload. There have certainly been times where I'm working where things are kind of in a lull, so I get some opportunities to squeeze some of that in throughout the day in my downtime. But it a lot of it is either I wake up at 5:30 in the morning from primarily
okay,
just to get my kids off to school, but that also does give me a little bit of time before I really have to like get into my job. So I'll use that as prime time to like do some writing for myself or create videos for myself or whatnot. Or at night, you know, when the kids go to sleep and I've got some spare time. It's still a struggle to find a balance. And I think it
yeah,
always will be. I don't think unless if I could focus on doing content for myself without a full-time job, like then yeah, it becomes easier because I just use my day job as that.
yeah,
But you know, besides that, it's just try and squeeze it in when I can.
hmm,
Unfortunately, consistency takes a hit when that's the case because there are nights that
yeah,
one of my kids is sick or doesn't want to go to sleep. So it's like I can't sit here and record a video because of that. Or, you know, if I'm not feeling well, it's like, you know,
yeah,
my priorities will always lie with the company who's giving me the paycheck at the end of the day because
oh yeah,
that's
for
the
sure,
contract that I've signed to do. But you know,
yeah,
if I can squeeze in some extra time to do my own thing, then great. And realistically, there are times I get burned out from doing it too. You know, where it's just like,
hmm,
okay, it's time to take a week and just kind of veg and play video games at night, you know, and kind of like
yeah, yeah,
drown the world out and not think about other things. And I also think it's important to give yourself that grace in order to do that, to like recognize when you're pushing a little bit too hard, when the you know your foot's on the gas a little
hmm,
bit too much, to take
yeah,
time for
totally,
yourself because you're not doing anybody any good if you're burning yourself into the ground. So
yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, because I always wonder, and again, this is like you mentioned, kind of try not to compare yourselves to other people, but it's like it's hard not to sometimes. But like, but the thing, I think the thing that I mean, I I'm 100% aware of this, but like you know, somebody like my old coworker Jason Langsdorf or like Aaron Francis, they didn't just all out of the blue all of a sudden acquire tens of thousands of followers because of like some viral video. Like they've been grinding away at this, and I know people, you know, grinding. Maybe people don't like to hear those terms and stuff, but like I do believe you gotta, if you want whatever you're doing, you gotta put in the work. Otherwise, you don't, you know, you don't progress. And like, and I think that's the thing that people might not see or think about. You know, it's like, oh, yeah, Aaron Francis has like 50,000, or I don't know how. I know he has a lot. I bought his course actually. I still have to watch it.
yeah, same.
The video course. But like it didn't come out of nowhere, right? Like he's been very thought. Well, I'm hoping to catch all the tips through his course, but like he's put in the time, you know. Like it's not, it wasn't like a microwavable success. This is like the slow cooker has been going, you know. It's been on 200 degrees for like 6 or 7 years, or I don't know how long he's been doing it, but so yeah, it just takes time. And I don't know. I see this in like, because I have two daughters, and like they're in their teens now, and like one of them like at one point was like, I just want to be a YouTube influencer. I think she was, you know, like is like a brief period, but like I think because that's what comes across, you know, like these people are like anybody can become one and like successful like immediately, and it's not the case. Like it, who knows, maybe it does happen, but like even like the big people, like they started somewhere, right? You know, it's
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, kind of all over the map there. Sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
I used to be one of those people that were like, "Oh, you just turn the camera on and start recording a video and start breaking in millions of dollars. Cool, can't be that hard."
yeah.
I was like, "What am I?" And I'm you know older and wiser now, whereas like I realize how much effort actually goes into doing this and doing it well. But it's like it takes work and it takes time
Mhm.
and it takes persistence and it takes
Yeah.
doing it in that maybe not even consistently, but like not giving up. The only time that you lose is
Yeah.
when you give up, right? Like I've been doing
Yeah.
YouTube for I started doing YouTube at the beginning of 2020 or middle of 2020 is I think when I started. I've got just shy of 4,000 subscribers, which is not which is decent. It's pretty good. but it's
Yeah.
only been because I'm consistently trying to like put new stuff and put different things out there. Um,
Yeah.
I don't have any anticipation that I'm going to blow up. I'm not even doing it because I'm going to blow up. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm part of their program, so I get paid by them, but I can't even get a hold of somebody to correct my bank details in their system, so I don't actually get any of that
Okay.
money that's sitting there.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I'm going to have to eventually reach out to somebody and figure that out. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Gotcha.
it's you just can't give up. You got to keep going. And some people will hit
Yeah.
success really early, which is great.
Mhm.
Celebrate that.
Yeah, totally. And I dropped your YouTube. I wasn't subscribed to it, so I
Oh,
just
thank
gave
you.
a subscribe. So you're one more subscriber closer to the next 1,000, I guess. But yeah, no, yeah, that's the thing. Like, just I think, yeah, consistency is super important. Like in anything, like learning anything too. And it's like, I don't know. I don't want to be like old man shouting at the clouds, but like I don't think there's nothing that replaces putting in the time for something like people, maybe not the same thing, but like I- I'll never say I'm a JavaScript expert, but I've been doing it for a long time, and I put in a lot of time into learning it. And you know people might say like, well, and I know everybody's circumstances is different, but like you need to put in that time outside of your actual job, in my opinion. And people think this stuff is spicy sometimes. I don't think it's that spicy though. Like, if somebody wants to learn an instrument, like I want to learn guitar, I'm not going to be able to learn guitar by just playing like 15 minutes or something, and then like be like Slash or something, or whoever a famous guitarist is these days. But like you got to put in all those hours, right? Like it's the only way you get good at anything. So I don't know. It's that sounds obvious maybe, but like I still feel pushback from people sometimes when they hear this. It's like
Yeah.
I don't know if
If
you've
you
you've seen similar or
I can't say if I have. I paid any mind to it. I mean, here
okay.
the reality is, if you want something if most people don't have, you got to do something most people aren't willing to do. There are a lot of people who
Oh, what's
want
that?
to be in tech and want to break into tech, but they don't want to
Yeah.
like I think AJC Web. I already forgot the name. I apologize. Says in there you got to get your reps, right? And that's
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah.
It's like you got to put the practice in. You got to put the time in. Anthony, I apologize. I know your name. I've seen you around before, but I actually was on Twitter. I was trying to look up your face just to see if I knew you again. But yeah, it's you got to put in that time.
Yeah.
I used to when I was really trying to like understand and learn JavaScript, I would take one day a week, and as soon as I get off of work, I would go to a Panera and sit there for 2-3 hours and just build stuff.
Mhm.
Right. That's
Yeah.
that's actually how I learned software development. I used to be an independent IT consultant, and then I would
Okay.
get off of work, go to my girlfriend's house, who's now my wife, hang out with her for a couple of hours, and then after
Yeah.
that, go to Denny's and hang out there
Okay.
for a couple hours till 2-3 o'clock in the morning because they give free coffee refills. So I could pay $2 for a cup
Oh,
of coffee and just
good
keep it
to
going
know.
all night. But yeah, it's like you got to put that time in.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know if this is part of like, because like I've also like mentored at like the collab lab, which is kind of like you kind of go through like web development with like React and building out an application and stuff. But like speaking to like a lot of bootcamp grads, and it's not every bootcamp, but I know like I think a lot of boot camps kind of gave that promise of like, here, 6-week course, and go get your, 6-figure salary or something. And it's not, I mean, maybe that would have been kind of like that at the start of the pandemic, but like the tide has definitely changed. And it's, I don't know if it's not, I don't want to say it's necessarily, it's like they feel like they're entitled to it, because I don't want to speak for people, but like again, like 6 weeks is great. You learn some stuff, but it's not enough. Still, you gotta keep building and stuff. And I don't know. It's just it's tough giving advice sometimes to people. I don't know. I struggle sometimes.
Yeah, and some people aren't willing to take it. That's okay. In my opinion, that's kind of to their own detriment, right?
Yeah,
They're not
yeah,
approaching they're not coming up to life with an open mind or willing to even understand it. So there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, no, for
That might
sure.
be a
And
spicy take.
no, wait, yeah, 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 no, yeah, it's okay. We're here for spice. It's okay. Yeah, and I don't know. Like at the end of the day, just you want people to succeed, but like I don't, I don't. I kind of it, it's the same kind of lines, but like like kids playing sports. I always it's just I think it's a perfect analogy. It's like when my kids were younger and like they're playing soccer or something, you win or lose the game and it's a tournament, everybody gets medals. And that's great when you're young, but there's like a tipping point where it's like it's good. I think it's good at least that not everybody gets a medal, like you have to put in the work to be number one. Like it's almost I don't know. It's like I don't know. You don't expect to go to the Olympics and land first place, like those people have put in a ton of time. It's like it's almost kind of almost seems kind of yeah, I guess it seems entitled like when it's like if you're expecting to make the team or whatever, like I don't know. It's kind of like it's just a reality, and I think it's a real reality in life, like it people don't want to hear it, but not sometimes people don't make it, sometimes people do, but you just got to put in the work. I don't know how to say it without say I don't want to say in the sense that like I don't care about people because that's not what I mean, but it's like you just kind of have to it really comes back to putting in the time and like I know like if I'm going for a job, like you said, like and it's even worse, like you said, when there's layoffs, it's like you're all of a sudden it's like you and all your old coworkers potentially, and you know, you want to be number one, you gotta do what you gotta do, and that might mean putting in more time too for certain things. And so
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
mean,
It's
I think my feels on this topic is you got to take responsibility for yourself. You can't
yeah.
expect to pay somebody just to follow a program to end up in a high paying tech job. Like the world just
Hmm.
does not work that way because think about how
Yeah.
many other thousands of people are taking their own 6 weeks programs. Like, and then now these companies who are hiring, they've got a selection. The power is kind of in their hands. So you got to do what you can in order to stand out from the crowd and take responsibility for landing that job that you want. And that means
Yeah.
a lot of times putting in the extra effort, whether it's through networking or creating content or practicing your craft so this way you can ace the interview. Like the more time and effort
Hmm.
you put into anything, I think the better the outcome is going to be. And you can really
Yeah,
only do that if
totally.
you're willing to say like, okay, this that my job of getting a job is on me. So now I have to
Yeah.
do what I can to make that happen. And does that mean it's going to? Are you entitled to? No, absolutely not. Sometimes
Yeah,
you're
that's
still
the other
going to
thing.
fall, and sometimes it's based on circumstances that are entirely out of your control, and that is unfortunate, but sometimes that's
Yeah.
just reality. Like
Yeah.
I had a friend
uh,
a friend recently who was I'm sorry, I got one more thing. I keep
no,
jumping
no,
in
no,
here.
no, no, I didn't mean to interrupt you, sorry, go ahead.
I got a friend recently who's trying to land a tech job, trying to transition over, and he got to the end and he didn't get the job. And the reason he
Hmm.
didn't is because he's like, we had someone else who was just a little bit more of a fit.
Yeah.
Wasn't that you did anything wrong? You did everything you possibly could have done. But this other
Hmm.
person was just, that extra half a percent better that we decided to go with them, unfortunately. So
Yeah. No, totally. And yeah, 100% agree with that. And there's other things too, like stuff out of your control again, but like the example you gave, but there's also like when I got hired at Netlify, I didn't know this at the time, but basically they hired for Eastern North America and UK for my team because the time zones overlap well. And so, you know, I could have had the same skills, but if I lived on the west coast of North America, I probably wouldn't have got hired. And it has nothing to do with, hey, you, it's not like, hey, you suck. It's just like we need Eastern time zone Nick. We don't need Western time zone Nick. Or
mhm.
or the other thing I've seen too is like you could be super amazing at what you do, and then at the end like you interviewed well and you get to the end like you said, and then the team or whoever's has the final say with the hiring might go like, Brian is amazing, but The problem is we already have a Brian. We need somebody else. You know what I mean? And again,
Yeah.
it's nothing to do with your skills or anything. And so it's yeah. Anyways, it's rough out there. I know, but and there's just a couple comments in the chat. That's why I wasn't trying to interrupt you before. It was just
Yeah, sure.
um that's the one thing with live streaming. I forgot to tell you before the stream, but like I might interrupt just to say somebody in the chat. But Learner 0418 is saying, and lots of chatter in the chat, by the way. Good thing. Learner 0418 saying, I found that volunteering with children sometimes cements your knowledge. This is going back to something else we were talking about, but because they ask such amazing questions. And also they're saying there's nothing is a substitute for dedication, which is kind of like putting in the work, like we were saying. And Chrissy's also saying there are moments when people who truly deserve the win but don't get it due to the isms and prejudices in the world. Yes, there's that too. Um, and, um, and then yeah, okay, they're just talking about that. Unfortunately, yes, but we can do our best to take care of stuff that we can control. Your skills are yours for your life. Okay, yeah, yeah. No, the yeah the there. It's unfortunate, but there are biases in hiring too. But like I think I definitely don't want to go into that whole topic right now, but like hiring in tech is like all over the map. Like I don't know about you, but like I've interviewed at some places where like it was like I had to build a whole application, fully test it, and like that was the criteria. Another one was just like a couple things, and then like, anyways, that's like maybe a good Twitter space to talk about hiring, but I don't think we have time to dig in that
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
Um, yeah. But yeah, cool. We're almost at time. I always book these for like an hour and a half because it depends on the topics and stuff. I don't know if there's other stuff you want to touch on still, Brian. I don't see too many other questions in the chat right now, but happy to keep chatting. But um, also don't want to just do dead air for dead air. So like if we don't have anything else to talk about, but yeah, I guess um okay, no, sorry, that learner was just speaking to Chrissy in the chat. Yeah, I guess maybe to we can definitely keep going, but if there's I guess like the key takeaways because like there's been people that have joined the stream midway and stuff. Like if we were to kind of wrap it up, like just for the folks that might have joined a little later, in terms of content creation, I guess maybe if in your own words, like just like maybe two or three tips to just start doing it.
Yeah, do it without thinking too hard about it. Just the best the faster you can get into it, the more comfortable you're going to get into it. Try not to focus too much about how perfect it is at the beginning because it's not going to be perfect. And then the one
Yeah.
thing I would also suggest is look into writing if as a first step. You might
Okay.
find you like it, you might find you hate it. That's fine. The experimenting I think is important to find out what medium resonates with you the best. But writing is
Hmm.
the closest to code, and we're talking to people in tech, so writing is going to be the
Yeah.
closest thing to coding. And there's a very low barrier to entry with places like Dev.to or Hashnode or Medium. You can quickly go there and sign up for an account, and you have yourself a blog. Like, no need to
Hmm.
put your own website together. No need to go through and build out some fancy backend Notion integration with built-in caching with Gatsby. Not saying I've ever done that, but that's my exact website setup. Totally unnecessary. But yeah, just do it. Just get started and do it do
Yeah.
it for your future self. Don't even do it for your current self. Although I will
Yeah.
say back to I want to comment on one more quick thing before we wrap up. Learner
Yeah. No
says
worries.
uh, volunteering with children sometimes can cement your knowledge. Writing is also an excellent way to cement your knowledge because when you write about something, you will quickly
Hmm.
realize how much about the thing you really don't know. And you'll
Yeah.
I've done it where I'll write about something and I think I know a lot about it until writing about it. I'm like, I'm throwing this out because this needs to go. I need to get better at this thing and go back to the
Yeah. Yeah.
drawing board. Um, yeah, Anthony says don't use Medium. Yeah, it's true. There's paywall. Paywall is kind of
Yeah.
an issue on Medium, but people also can make money through that paywall on Medium as a
Oh,
tip.
yeah, that's
Not
true.
saying
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I do, but I do know some people who actually have a decent month to month income from their Medium posts. So there's
Oh, good
benefits
to
to
know.
that. But yeah,
Yeah.
for beginners, I would definitely don't go into the paywall stuff because you want to get your stuff out there as quickly and best as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like what you said about like, use Hashnode or Dev2. They're both great platforms, and like you could eventually create your own blog, like your own website and everything if you want to. But again, to the mantra of hopefully Nike doesn't sue us, but just do it, like
If
I
Nike
totally
sues
agree.
us, they clearly don't have enough to worry about. Okay,
Yeah, yeah. Nike, if you're watching, thanks for watching, I guess. But send me a pair of
maybe you
Air
could
Jordans.
sponsor. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't mind being sponsored by Nike. My name's close to Nike, kind of, maybe. Um, but but yeah, yeah. No, that's great points. And Anthony's just saying, yeah, I totally feel that. I think if you want to make money though, there's better platforms. Oh, you're speaking about Medium. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
and yeah, and to just kind of touch on the networking for developers again, and like I know we both don't really like the term networking, but I guess again because some folks join midway or a little late in the stream, just you know. In your words, maybe just a few tips. Like I know people can catch the recording to for the whole conversation, but like
Yeah.
I guess kind of some high level stuff for folks.
Do it with no expectation on return. Just do it to be friendly. Helping out people is probably the best thing that you can do. That's the quickest way to actually build a relationship with someone. Couple of easy wins. If it's somebody's birthday on Twitter, wish them happy birthday. If they're celebrating a promotion or a raise or a career transition or whatever, hey,
Mhm.
congratulations. It takes almost no effort to do that, and it plants the seed for what could be a potentially great relationship. And
Yeah,
another thing, which I don't even think I mentioned earlier in the chat in our chat. So since I've been doing these coffee chats, I did a
yeah.
recap of my first month of doing them, and what I quickly came to
Okay.
realize is everybody thinks that they suck at building relationships and networking. So
Yeah. Okay. That's
don't
interesting.
don't think you're alone. If you think that networking is rough for you, just know that the vast majority of people also struggle with networking. So you are probably
Okay.
making it easier for them by taking the first step.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it ties back into the mantra of just do it, like tear off that band-aid and just
Yeah.
start talking to people. And no, that's great. That's great. No, it's been a lot of folks in the chat have been saying this has been a great conversation. Uh, Okay, they're still talking about medium versus step two or hashtag.
Yes,
I'll let you
started a
fight it.
fight.
Yeah, I'll let you fight it out in the chat there. But no, this has been really great. I'm gonna drop some links to where folks can give you a follow again, and um, yeah, it's just been really great. I'm hoping we can meet up in person at some point. I don't know when that'll be, but this is really great hanging. And oh, learner, sorry, gotta interrupt again. The chat saying, learner 0418 saying, I love to hear this conversation with Nick and Brian. Well, thank you for the kind words. And
Thank you.
glad you found some value out of it too. Um, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, so I guess with that, thanks again, everybody. Brian, thanks again for taking time out of your day. And good luck with the move. I saw the U-Haul on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. So good
Yeah.
luck with the move. I know those are never necessarily fun things. I've moved a few times myself, and it's always like kind of like Tetris, fit everything in there. Are you moving? Do you have movers, or are you moving it yourself with the U-Haul, or
Oh, moving it myself. We're packing it. We're
okay?
driving it. I got a 7 hour drive ahead of me tomorrow to where we're gonna end up. So, and this is actually
Okay.
only the first batch. I'm gonna have a second truck in order to finish the whole thing
Oh,
off.
okay.
So,
Okay, okay,
yeah,
okay.
not fun. Hopefully, this is the last one for a long time though.
Yeah, yeah. Well, cool. Well, best of luck with that, and definitely have some coffee if you're gonna be on the road for a while. Thanks again, everybody in the chat. We're just gonna go raid Bald Bearded Builder. It's always hard to say. I like to call him Triple B instead. So we're gonna go give him a raid, and thanks again, Brian. And if you just don't mind staying on for just a second, and then we'll just raid here first.
Yeah,
They
thanks for
always
having
give
me,
me
Nick.
count.
This was great.
Yeah, it's super awesome. And say hi to Dom over at Clerk for me, and
Will do.
I'll be seeing him shortly. All right, take care, everybody. And yeah, just give me 1 second there.